everyone. Welcome to my Nature Diaries. Did you know that your nature journal can be more than just a book of facts? Yes, I'm here today to share with you 5 tips for storytelling with your nature journal. So what do I mean by storytelling? It's simply sharing your feelings and discoveries, and this time we're going to use visual clues as well as text. Which leads me to our first tip: choose your subjects thoughtfully. When we are choosing our subjects to journal, it's important for us to take a moment and look at all the material we collect, whether pictures or actual plant material and videos, whatever it is, and put them together and try to formulate some thoughts and feelings as to the story that it might be telling you. So I wanted to do this on a recent hike that we went on, and I used a couple main images that you're seeing here to kind of inspire me to storytell a little bit in this particular layout in my nature journal. Using these layout shapes, I'm going to thoughtfully think about where I want to place each photo so I can create, like I said, a little story and a storyline. I don't really have everything in mind, and I'm not telling a fictional story. It's more about just sharing my experiences along the trail, but I'm using that layout to just help me to be able to set it up. I decided to go straight in with my inking here with my fountain pen, and this is a permanent gray ink. You can definitely use pencil for yours and then ink it later. I'm starting off with these beautiful brown-eyed Susans that were greeting us at the beginning of the trail and at the forest edge. I'm also making sure that I'm kind of curving the drawing in. It's going to be a painting in towards the center because I want to lead you into the next little scene in this particular layout on this hike. Next up, I am sketching in with my fountain pen this great blue heron just to share a few thoughts that I had about it while we were walking along the edge of this fishing pond. One of the great things about storytelling in your nature journal is the fact that you can journal the same animals and plants over and over again because we're using a different kind of format. My next tip is don't be intimidated by the process. Storytelling in itself doesn't really need to be intimidating. It's very intuitive and natural. So these tips are just to help us a little bit, to make us slow down maybe and think about what we're doing in our nature journals so we can communicate in a visual story as well as text for our readers. So it's more enjoyable for you and for them as well. Next up is to use your painting time to think about your text. I think one of the reasons I love to paint in studio is because it gives me a chance to take my time and paint in layers. And while I'm doing that and letting layers dry, it allows me to focus on what I want to say about whatever it is that I'm painting. I wanted to include this great blue heron because it stumbled upon this fishing pond which they stock with all kinds of trout and bluegill and all kinds of different fish. And so basically it won the fishing lottery. This heron was definitely going to be well fed before winter comes on. Because I was taking all this time adding these layers a little bit here and there, I was able to work that story out in my mind. For my last little scene or thumbnail, I wanted to include this shot that I took, just this photograph, because I loved the contrast of light and dark in this particular photo. It's one of the things that I love about this time of year when the sun starts to go further down on the horizon and we start to get these really long and dark shadows, especially when we're walking in the woods and on paths. So it was important for me to include it and to show that contrast of the really light and dark because the sun was still bright, but again, because it was further down in the horizon, because of the time of year, it really did create this very dramatic scene. Taking our time with each of the paintings, adding layers, allows us to recollect, remember, and even let our minds wander a bit and takes some of the stress away when we are trying to get to the next step eventually, which is composing what we're actually going to be writing because we don't have a lot of space in these journals. Use your title to help set up your story. Using a short but descriptive title is another tip and another way to bring your reader into your world in your nature journal. Here's some examples. This example is with berries and a butterfly, just to showcase what I saw in a meadow on that particular day. Here I'm focusing on the two main colors, and you can see not only are they in the words, but they also are echoed in the background colors. I really loved this one because it was a day of discovery, and I really tried to include some different things on that spring morning. And for this one, it's a bit of a mystery because you're wondering, what are Spring's miniatures? And so hopefully that'll bring you in to read more. Another thing I was doing while I was painting all of these scenes was letting the title itself kind of formulate in my mind. I often like to use words that start with the same letters, like berries, butterflies, and in this particular one, I am going to use the name of the month here to demonstrate a little bit more what you're going to be reading about. I almost always place the title, at least in these landscape type of notebooks, way over on the left-hand side because, again, we usually read from left to right. So I did that here as well. Sometimes I do put them in the center. It just depends on whatever that composition is. As you can see, I chose for the title Scenes from September. I think it's because every scene felt like a different room, and that made for a really great hike on this trail. Your title allows you to be creative, and it can also create drama with the font style and the size of the font as well. It can hint at your layout's theme, and most of all, it will invite your reader in. And that's really what you're trying to do when you are creating a story, because titles can communicate so much to our viewers or readers. Since you are still here, I want to take a moment and invite you to subscribe for more nature art if you haven't already subscribed. Also, please like, comment, share this video, comment, let me know what you think, and follow me over on Instagram at @my_Nature Diaries. See you there. My next tip is to use creative text placement. When I first started nature journaling, I used a lot of text in blocks, and while there's nothing wrong at all with that style of nature journaling, I realized that it was a little boring for me want to reread, and if it's boring for me, it's probably going to be boring for someone else. So I really worked on the placement of where I'm going to put my words. And as I'm working on this particular layout, let me share some past examples of some things that I did. For this example, I added text to boxes. Also, I added stamps to designate certain things about the plants. And this can be really creative and break up all that writing. I added a dried specimen of this particular flower. Because there was this empty space around the envelope that I used, I decided to put some writing around there as well. And then for this one that you saw earlier, you can see I used text to gently outline and playfully flow over the actual flowers themselves. All of these ideas can really help make it a little bit more interesting when we're trying to create an idea or a story within our nature journal and our nature journal layouts. What I did here was to use the space for the writing as a bit of a path or a trail, but instead of it just going from one direction and out, I came back in and worked the writing in towards the center. What that does is just helps the reader stay in your journal entry instead of your eyes going off the page. I also used cursive writing instead of printing to change up the feel of the layout. I hope this video left you feeling inspired, and remember, you are so amazing and creative. Till next time, bye.